Good afternoon. I call to order this special session for Monday, December 8th at 1 p.m., 2025 to interview for General Sessions Judge. Madam Clerk, if you'll start with the roll, please.
Commissioner Rawls.
Present.
Commissioner Durrett. Present. Commissioner Oster.
Here.
Commissioner Jackson. Here. Commissioner Russell. Here. Commissioner Hill. Here. Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Fox. Commissioner Jay. Here. Commissioner Frazier.
Present.
9 members are present.
Thank you. Commissioner Lee.
Madam Chair, I would like to recuse myself from the vote.
Thank you. And you're welcome to join the other nominees. All right. So how we will start is we'll start in order that we have the resumes. So that will begin with Andrea Klein, and each applicant has up to 10 minutes to address us. Once everyone is finished, then we'll open up the floor to commissioners for questions for the nominees. So we will begin with Ms. Klein. Applicants, yes. Turn the little person.
Is that it? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you got it.
My name is Andrea Klein. Thank you for having me today, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. As you know, I am here seeking the appointment to be the next Knox County General Sessions Court Judge for Division 4. I'm seeking this position because I have 30 years of experience, and that experience has given me a broad understanding of the judicial process and has given me the skills to immediately begin adjudicating cases in Sessions Court promptly, fairly, and responsibly. I'm a lifelong Tennessean and a proud graduate of the University of Tennessee. I've made Knoxville my home since I came to the University of Tennessee as an undergraduate student almost 40 years ago. After graduating with a degree in psychology, I worked in a group residential home for mentally and physically disabled adults. And after that, I entered the University of Tennessee College of Law, where I graduated in 1995, and I was also licensed to practice that same year. I began my legal career in private practice, and I handled civil and personal injury matters, domestic cases. I represented indigent criminal and juvenile defendants, and I also served as a guardian ad litem for vulnerable adults and children. In 2000, I was appointed by District Attorney General Randy Nichols to serve as an assistant district attorney, and was later reappointed by District Attorney General Sharm Allen to continue my public service in that role. I'm currently employed now as an assistant DA. Over the last 30 years, I've practiced in all of the Knox County criminal courts, including the grand jury, and I've practiced in many, if not all, of the civil courts. I've prosecuted thousands of cases and have efficiently and effectively managed very large and demanding caseloads on a daily basis. I'm proud to say that over 30 years of my career, I've never had to answer a complaint with the Board of Professional Responsibility. And one of the most meaningful accomplishments of my career was building the first elder abuse special prosecution unit in the state of Tennessee, and also helping to draft legislation that strengthened protections for elderly and vulnerable adults throughout our state. As you know, Sessions Court judges handle both civil and criminal matters, and my years of practice has given me the skills to manage the challenges of large and fast-paced dockets immediately if appointed. And also, I will be ready to run an effective campaign in the upcoming election, supported by the relationships, the trust, the reputation for hard work that I've earned over decades of service. Outside of the courtroom, I'm the proud mother of 3 adult children. I'm a longtime member of St. John's Episcopal Church and an active member of the community. I've served on the board of directors for 4 local nonprofit organizations, and I've supported many others because faith, family, and service have always been a foundation of my life. I'm seeking this appointment not as a career politician, but as a career public servant. I believe strongly in personal accountability, the rule of law, and the fair and consistent administration of justice. I am here because this specific court, this specific work, and this community matter deeply to me. My entire career has prepared me to take the bench on day one. If appointed, I will serve fairly, impartially, and with a full understanding of the law and the constitutional rights of both defendants and victims. I understand the profound impact that judicial decisions have upon individuals and upon the community, and I'll approach each case with compassion, consideration, and dedication to justice. It would be an honor to continue my service as the next Knox County General Sessions Court Judge, and I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you for your time and your attention to this process, and I look forward to answering any questions you might have for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. We'll do that at the end. So, Commissioners, are you good with having everybody speak and then we ask questions after everybody spoke? Or do you want to ask them now? Good? Okay, we'll go with the consensus. So we'll have everybody speak and then we'll go through the questions.
So I'll sit down and wait for my
next
next
turn. You are welcome
turn.
to sit down.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The next applicant is Rhonda Lee.
Can you hear me?
Yep,
Okay.
got it.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm standing before you, and I serve with all of you as a county commissioner. I want to tell you why I'm running for Sessions Judge first. A lot of you probably don't know my background. You've got my resume. But I think I'm the real American story. I was born in East Tennessee, very small community, very poverty-stricken community. My grandfathers were both coal miners. My parents did not graduate high school. My dad went to the 8th grade, my mom to about the 6th grade. They didn't go to high school because they couldn't afford clothes. They couldn't afford lunch. But my dad is the smartest man I ever know. My dad taught me working hard and treating people good and having integrity was the most important thing in life. So when I graduated high school, I didn't have an option to go on to college. I did very well in high school, but my family didn't have any money. So I had a family, started a family, had 6 children, loved my children. My greatest honor is being a mother. In my early 40s, big life change happened. I became a single mother with 6 children. During my life, I had worked. I'd been a real estate agent. I'd been a builder and built houses, and I loved working with people, helping them get into a house. And then I decided, what is Rhonda going to do with the rest of her life? And I decided, I need to go back to school. And I decided, and I prayed about it, and I was like, God, what would you have me to do? Because I want to do something to make a difference in people's life. People told me, you can't do it. You're too old. You don't have the money. Stupid. Just get a job working in the office and you should be satisfied. But I decided I wanted to be a lawyer. So I started school and I worked all during school as a single mother. And I worked at law firms. But the first law firm I went to work for, because I was volunteering at legal aid, I met the famous, legendary Don Payne. And if you're not a lawyer, you probably doesn't mean a whole lot to you, but in the legal community, he is a legend. He wrote a lot of law. And he was my friend. He gave me the first start in a law firm. And it was a wonderful experience. I learned so much. I also worked along with one of our new Supreme Court justices, Dwight Tarwater. And I knew how important it was to surround myself with good people that practice law. And then when I was in law school, I got to intern at the Knoxville DA's office. And I worked with one of our Court of Criminal Appeals judges, Steve Sword. He was my mentor. And I worked in some very, very serious cases like child sex abuse. And then I also worked and interned up in Anderson County with Dave Clark's office and worked with Emily Abbott, who's now one of our criminal court judges. So I was inspired all along my way of 9 years of going to law school, of people saying, what do you want to do when you get out of law school? You want to make a lot of money? And I never wanted, at that stage in my life, was never about making a lot of money. It was about making a difference in people's life. And so when I got out of law school, and my plan was I was going to be a prosecutor. I had worked at the Knox County DA's office and the Anderson County. I also worked at the U.S. Attorney's office. And I thought, well, I'm on the path to be a prosecutor. But when I got out, they didn't have a job opening for me. So I had to just be a lawyer on my own and just jump out there and take court-appointed cases. And here with the prosecutor mindset, I was like, I wasn't prepared for this. So my first case I handled was for a single mom who had 3 little kids. And she sat in jail for 2 months over being accused of a crime. And they took her kids away from her, and she lost her housing. But I pushed, and I wanted the state to prove their case. And her case was dismissed because nobody took the time to look at her case and look at a video. And that was the first time in my life that I thought our government actually would imprison or charge somebody with a crime that was innocent. It was a big eye-opening experience for me because I thought nobody would be arrested unless they did something. And then I began my journey, and I started practicing, primarily doing criminal indigent defense. So I work with a lot of people who cannot afford counsel. And I found out those are the ones who fall through the cracks. They don't have the money to lawyer up. A lot of them have mental health addictions, drug addictions. So after that eye-awakening experience, I began my journey of practice, and I've been practicing going on 13 years. After that, and also in many counties, Anderson County, Cott County, Sevier County, Overton County, but I had judges that believed in me. They gave me some really serious cases. Right after that one case I told you I got dismissed, and that mom got out of jail, but nobody helped her get her kids back. Nobody restored her. Nobody helped her with the housing. Nobody said, I'm sorry. But I had judges who believed in me, and they gave me some serious cases. And I thought, I'm not qualified to do this. But I was determined I was going to be their advocate and make sure their constitutional rights were protected. And as a defense attorney, our job is not to get people out of jail. Our job is not to get people out of a crime. It's to make sure they have representation. It's to make sure they're treated fairly. So I've handled numerous serious trials like first-degree murder, rape. You name it, I've probably done it, drug cases. I can't think of anything right now that I haven't defended, and I do that every day, and I do that as a commissioner. I'm a solo practicing attorney. I do it all. I don't have a secretary. I don't have a paralegal. It's me. I'm the chief cook and bottle washer. I'm also a county commissioner, and I do that. So I can handle a huge caseload, and I think it's important as a judge to be fair and to not have any biases of coming in and making sure that everybody's rights are protected, everybody's constitutional rights are protected. And, you know, the General Sessions Court is considered the people's court. And one thing I know is people. I've worked with people my whole life. My first job was at McDonald's in high school. And in high school, I worked hard to even become a manager in high school. And I told you about my parents. They didn't have much education. We didn't have much money. We didn't even have a phone till I was in high school. We never owned a home. When I worked at McDonald's, I taught my parents that, you might be able to buy a home. Maybe you can. And I kind of showed them that they could buy a home, and they were able to buy their first home. But nobody ever told them that they could be a homeowner. They were just hard-working, blue-collar people. And I've worked a lot of jobs starting in McDonald's. I've worked real estate. I've worked in banking. And so I've worked hard, and I've worked with people, and that's one thing I do know is people. And General Sessions Court is a people's court. That's where people come that are criminally accused. That is a lot of times their first initial appearance to the justice system. And they're terrified. They're scared to death. What's going to happen to me? So it's critical that a judge sit there and treats everybody with respect, not just the people with money, not just the people that they like, but everybody. From the Even drug addicts deserve that, even people with mental health. And that's what I'm very passionate about, is helping these people. If we can rehabilitate them, let's get them help. And doing my trials, people think, as a defense attorney, you're just trying to get people off. But what we have to do as a defense attorney is we have to look at the state's evidence. We have to look at all the facts that there is. And it's very hard to tell your client, this looks bad. And sometimes we have to convince them, you need to take an offer. You don't need to take this to trial. This really looks bad. And your client think, well, you're working for the state. No, we're trying to protect you. I recently had a double murder case, and the facts were very, very serious. And so, it's hard when you represent somebody who, is probably guilty and the state can prove their case, but we still have to represent them. But I had to look at those facts and tell my client, you're looking at spending the rest of your life in jail. But if you want to go to trial, I'm with you. I'm going to sit right here. I'm going to respect you to make sure you're treated fairly. And he decided to take a plea. But it's hard dealing with people in those tragic circumstances and having to tell their family, your daughter, your dad, he's going to prison, maybe for the rest of his life. But to have somebody say, that young man looked at me and said, thank you. Not because he got out of the trial, but it's the first time anybody treated him like he was a human being. And I think as a judge, we need that. We need judges that are going to treat everybody with respect. You have my resume, you see my experience. All these candidates are qualified to be a judge. There's nobody up here I would tell you they're a bad person. They all work hard. We all work hard. I'm just here asking you that I want this position because based upon my experience of working with people, and my experience of seeing how people are hurting, they need to be treated fairly, everybody, even if they're the ones who are guilty. They need to be treated with respect, and they need to move this docket. They don't need to be coming to court for a year or two. This needs to be expedited. And so I'm all about getting these cases done and administering justice, but also treating people with respect.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lee. And our last is Mr. Kevin Teeters.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the Knox County Commission, my name is Kevin Teeters, and you will find I am a man of few words. I appreciate your consideration in considering me to be appointed to fill the shoes of Sessions Judge Andrew Jackson VI. I was born and raised in Knox County, a proud graduate of Doyle High School. In September of 2000, I went to work in the Knox County DA's office under former Attorney General Randy Nichols. I worked in that capacity for 6 years as an intern and a law clerk. During that time, I completed my undergraduate degree at UT, and then I went on to the UT College of Law. Graduated in December of 2005, took the bar in February of 2006, and May 1st of 2006, I started as an assistant district attorney in Knox County, a job I have held the entire time. In those 20 years in the DA's office, 18 have been spent in the Knox County Sessions Courts, all 4. I have been assigned once or multiple times to all of them. The 2 years I was not in Sessions Court, I did a short stint in the Child Abuse Unit and a short stint in the Juvenile Justice Unit. For the past 5 years, Attorney General Sharm Allen has chosen me to be her team leader in Sessions Court. I am the main contact person for our office with the Knox County Clerk's Office, the Sheriff's Department, KPD, and THP as it relates to Sessions Court. An average day for me is handling about 90 defendants, encompassing 200 charges. That's just a normal day. People hear those numbers and they ask, how can you do that? It's just natural to me. I'm prepared, I'm efficient, and I'm consistent. I had multiple people come up to me today and say, you're here today? It never occurred to me not to go and do my docket today. So I was there this morning handling over 100 people. Many times I will make an offer to a defense attorney, and after I do, they'll say, well, I told my client that's exactly what you were going to offer. That shows I'm predictable. That shows I'm consistent. That is exactly what you want out of a judge in Sessions Court. Predictability comes from following the law and not following emotions or biases. Andrea and Rhonda are both good friends of mine. And I am honored to have this opportunity along with them. Whomever you select, I have no doubt that person will do an excellent job and will be a worthy person to fill the shoes of Judge Andrew Jackson VI. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Commissioners, at this time, I will open up the floor for questions. If you're going to ask all the applicants, just make sure that they know that, and we will go from there. So first up is Commissioner Fox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for each of the applicants. I guess you can just, one at a time, stand up the lectern there. Do you, Ms. Klein, do you intend, if you're not selected today, to run at the next election for this position?
I'm fully prepared to run if I am appointed today, if I have that honor. In regards to your actual question of what the plan is if I am not appointed today, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I respect this process. I obviously want to see what the outcome is. A decision like that would be one that I would need to speak with my family and my friends. But there are also office policies that are in place, and I would have to talk to my boss about that before I made that final decision. But at this point, everything is on the table.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lee, I have the same
question.
question. Do you intend to run for this office?
Yes, I will be running for this office, and I am going to give up my commission seat and not run for commissioner next term, but I am fully prepared to run.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Teeters? Or General, I should have called you General Klein. I apologize for that, General Klein. General Teeters?
As you're not going to be surprised by, the same office policies that would apply to General Klein will also apply to me. If I receive this appointment, I will be ready to go day one and seek and prepare for the May primary. But short of that, I just have to see what happens and go from there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioner Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually have 3 questions that I'd like to ask each of the applicants. Do I have time to ask these 3 questions?
And Madam Chair, can we just, so they're not just continuing doing musical chairs, can we just have one come up and we all ask? Because I'm going out on a limb and assuming most people have questions of each person.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay, thank you.
So it's up to you on who wants to go first here. But my first question is on judicial temperament and fairness. Describe a time that you have faced a highly emotional, contentious situation in court. How do you maintain calm and ensure that all the parties are felt heard as judge?
Thank you for that question. Every day in court is contentious. That's what we do. We argue our position before the judge, but there's also a lot that goes on in negotiations with defense attorneys, particularly in the court that I'm in right now, DUI Sessions Court. Most of the negotiations and talking goes on in the back hall, and some of that can be contentious. Whenever you get into a situation where it seems to be getting out of control, it's the same as what any other person would do. You take a deep breath, step back, and say, we need to talk about this at another time. If you're in the courtroom situation, obviously you want to always keep your composure, show your respect to the other parties involved, and always show your respect to the court, because that's what we're there to do, is to have the judge ultimately decide those decisions. And of course, if you're in a jury, the jury would ultimately decide that.
I would agree with what she just said, but I think it's very important in this situation, and this happens a lot. Probably it gets a lot more contentious at the jury trial stage, which I have done a number of jury trials, but we also have to keep it in check. And there's something that happens when you come before the court. You have a different demeanor. You know what your boundaries are. You're not allowed to attack the state. You're not allowed to attack anybody in there. You have to be respectful, and you have to treat everybody with respect. I can't think of a situation where I've had a district attorney or even with a judge that it's got out of hand. I mean, people are going to disagree all the time. And most of the time they're disagreeing about our client, but we still have to advocate, but still be respectful. So I don't have a situation that I can think of where there was like any knockdown brawl between the attorneys. I think everybody is respectful to the court and to each other. It's just the way it is. You have to be, respectful.
I would just say if you see it start to going south in that direction, what I generally do is just take a deep breath and think about what I'm going to say. Don't escalate the situation. Choose my words carefully. I'm a fairly even-tempered guy, so that's not something I encounter a lot, but it has happened on occasion.
Commissioner Jackson, would you pull your microphone a little closer to you? Awesome. Thank you.
My second question is on independence and ethics. I'm sorry. My second question is on problem solving and management. So we all know that General Sessions Court moves quickly. How do you balance efficiency with giving each case meaningful attention while keeping the docket under control?
I'll start. And I was having a little trouble hearing you. I'm sorry.
Would you like me to repeat it?
If you don't mind, please.
General Sessions Court moves fast. How will you balance efficiency with giving each case meaningful attention while keeping the docket under control?
Well, as I said earlier when I was speaking with you all, I am used to handling very large caseloads daily. I've handled thousands and thousands and thousands of cases over the last 30 years. I'm very used to handling courtrooms that are overflowing with people as a prosecutor. As a judge, I think it's a different role, of course, because you're the one sitting there that everything has to process through. But it's also so important that you give every individual who comes into that courtroom the opportunity to be heard and to have their case addressed. Nobody wants to be in court. Victims don't want to be in court. Defendants don't want to be in court. Law enforcement doesn't want to be there. But they're all there for a purpose. And the quicker and more efficiently that you can process those cases is better for everybody. Also, the Sessions Court is a gatekeeper for all the criminal courts. I believe last year, between 2024 and 2025, there were 75,000 cases that processed through the Sessions Court. That's a lot of cases. Docket control is extremely important. Being in court, being present, being there until the docket is done, and working through every single day to make sure those cases are processed is key. And the defense attorneys do a great job, the prosecutors do a good job, and the judges do a good job. It's just a very big, it's a big job, but it has to be taken on with every single day, remembering that the citizens of Knox County deserve to be heard.
I would like to say one of the things that whether it be 100 or 300 cases, the judges aren't hearing the whole case on one day. Some of those cases, they're going to, practically, I haven't seen very many represent themselves. Usually there's attorneys involved. So some of those cases are going to get dismissed. So the judge would take a dismissal. Some of those cases are going to get reset. That means that, they're not ready to go forward with a hearing. So some of those, they get reset because they need to more time or whatever. So those kind of go pretty quickly. Some of them, a witness or a victim may not show up, or the officer, those get reset. As far as how many hearings the judge does, sometimes they have preliminary hearings. They may have 3, 4, or 5 a day, and sometimes there's bond hearings. And that's one of the most important things the judge does is set bond, which that could affect whether somebody's getting out of jail or not getting out of jail, or if they're getting a bond that's fair. So that is one of the important issues that a judge does do. But as far as like hearing every case will not ever be heard. Whether it be 100 or 300, every case is not going to be before that judge as far as a hearing. So some of those are going to be moved quickly. Like Kevin said, he handles a lot of cases. I'll due to that. I carry a heavy caseload too, and they're not all having a hearing every day. So it depends on what stage of the litigation it is. So that speeds the process up for the court. But every day the judge is not hearing a preliminary hearing or a long, lengthy matter on each case. So it moves fairly quickly. It's just getting everybody in the right place. Sometimes you're waiting on people to show up, whether it be an officer or a victim or your client or a DA. So that takes time to take up, but it moves pretty quickly, even though it may be lengthy. But I do handle a large caseload, so it's manageable. So
I have often had people ask me what Sessions Court is like. Those of you who are not in it, it is controlled chaos. That's the best way I can describe it. And it's right, over 90% of what a Sessions judge does is take pleas and just do, very basic, formal, dotting your I's, crossing your T's sort of work. But then you get 10% where you do need to take some extra time. You do need to listen to what's going on. It's a little out of the ordinary. And that's where I think it comes in. If you are predictable and consistent and follow the law, no emotion, no bias, just stick to what you know, that's going to get you through it.
Thank you very much. Out of respect for my fellow commissioners who have other questions, that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Durrett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First off, I just want to say thank you to all three of you for your interest in this position. And it is incredibly clear that you are very passionate about the law and about the work that you do. So I want to say thank you for that. With that, my first question is to each of you, why now? Is this something you've always wanted to do? Is this something now that there's an opportunity you want to jump on it? Just why are you standing here with this interest?
If anyone else wants to go first.
I will jump in there and answer this question. This is something that has become a lawyer always a life dream. It wasn't the time that if I could have cherry picked the timing wasn't like when you would, but it happened, right? And so when opportunities and doors open, a lot of times you just got to go through that door. But it was a lifelong, being in politics was not my ambition ever. It was something that it opened up and I felt like there was a calling to do that and I entered that. But I always wanted sometime in my career to sit in a judge's position. And now as being a commissioner, I'm just humbled and so honored that people in Knox County voted for me. And that is a humbling to serve them. But I think that as a judge, I could serve Knox County in a bigger capacity. And that's why I'm running, because it opened and it was an opportunity, but it is something I've always thought about. It's kind of like, I guess if you're a lawyer, that would be like getting in the major leagues, kind of like that.
I've wanted to be a Sessions judge. I won't say since the very first day I started in Sessions Court, but probably shortly thereafter. And for sure the last 10 years. And why now? I had intended on doing it a few years ago when you all appointed Judge Davis. But that was a strange set of circumstances, and I ended up deferring to him, and now he sits on the bench. But I just feel now is my time.
I would agree with the other two candidates that the timing was interesting on this. I don't think any of us were really quite prepared to seek this appointment. I had considered and was approached about a judicial position a few years ago and didn't feel like the timing was right for me personally and the things that were going on in my life. Now I feel like I am at a place in my career and my life where I am ultimately very prepared to do this job. I'm not doing this because of political aspirations. I am not a politician, which you can probably tell. But I'm doing it because I think I'm the best candidate for the job. I've done civil practice, I've done criminal defense, I've done guardian work, I've rewritten laws in the state of Tennessee, I've practiced in all the criminal courts and the grand jury, and I feel like my experience has culminated to a point where I am ready to do this, and I am the most prepared than I've ever been to do it, and I think I would do a great job for the citizens of Knox County.
Thank you all. My next question is, what does accountability look like for a general sessions judge, and how would you practice it?
Imagine that. What does accountability look like? Doing your job right, following the law, listening to the citizens, listening to the defense attorneys. When you get the pro se defendant in front of you, listening to them. That's the best answer I can give. We all three of us have practiced in front of multiple sessions judges through the years. I have no doubt that all three of us will be accountable as we need and will succeed in the position.
Of course, we're accountable to the citizens of Knox County, but also there is an appeal process. So say if something happened and the judge made a call that an attorney didn't think was right or, didn't agree with, they can appeal that to a higher court and then have another judge listen to it to determine whether or not that judge made the right call. But there is an appellate process, so it's not the final end of the story. There is a very easy process that it can be appealed. And the other judges kind of, there's 5 sessions judges. They're all kind of watching to make sure everybody's doing their job right. And then with the DAs and the defense attorneys, if you're not doing something right, they're all going to be on you. So there is an appellate process procedurally through the courts if something is done wrong.
Ultimately, we are accountable to the citizens of Knox County. That's who we serve, and that's who we're most accountable to. We're also constrained by the rule of law. Opinions don't matter. My personal opinions should not matter as a judge. The rule of law, it requires us to listen to the facts, apply those facts to the law, and apply the law. So we're constrained by the rule of law. Also, there as attorneys, we are subject to ethical constraints. The Board of Professional Responsibility overlooks what lawyers do. And if you have problems, ethical problems, or that board watches over. There is also the Judicial Code of Conduct, which is specific to judicial candidates and judges, that as a judge you would be subject to those rules as well. And those are in place to make sure that judges are not doing things that they shouldn't be doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I, too, want to thank you all for the current work and dedication that you show our court system. It's a tough job. It's a thankless job. So thank you all. Also, thank you for your willingness to serve in this capacity. I did have 2 questions, but you all have spoken specifically to some of your experience and perspective, so I won't ask that question. But my other question is this, and it's for all of you. What policy changes or procedural reforms would you prioritize to improve efficiency, reduce case backlogs, or streamline courtroom operations in General Sessions Court?
General Sessions Court, as you've heard, is controlled chaos, but the key word is controlled. A lot of people, a lot of cases process through those courts, and we are subject to limited resources. We have limited judges, limited courtrooms, limited court staff. I think it would be important, and again, I'm speaking from my years of experience. I have not been a judge, so I think it would be presumptuous of me at this point to say exactly what changes to efficiency I would propose, because I don't know what I don't know yet. But I think it would be very important to bring all the stakeholders that are involved in the court process system, judges, prosecutors, defense attorneys, the clerk's office, law enforcement, IT folks, bring all the stakeholders together and talk about the things that are not working as well as they could be, and try to have everyone's perspective put in to the group talk. That's the way you solve problems, is getting communication, talking to each other. I don't know what the limitations are necessarily with law enforcement. If I'm trying to move courtrooms around, I'm not necessarily thinking about the security that it would require if a different courtroom, for example, were used. I think it's so important to have that communication, and I think that we can operate more efficiently. But again, I think it would be presumptuous for me to say exactly what changes need to be made right now.
I would agree. I can't really speak to what policy changes because I'm not a judge, but I can tell you I would say if there was one thing we could improve is that maybe at some point we look at getting an additional courtroom and an additional judge because of the huge backlog of cases. But that's all comes down to finances. Where would that courtroom be? So that's a bigger question, but that is a need that maybe at some time that the county does look at, of getting an additional courtroom.
As the team leader for sessions the past 5 years, I've been involved in those conversations about how to improve things. We've brought stakeholders together. We've talked about those things. We have made some small incremental changes. So I would continue to be involved in those sort of discussions. The second thing I would say is the 5 sessions judges are independent of each other. They each do their own dockets and that sort of thing. I think there needs to be a better camaraderie amongst those about helping out each other. If you're overloaded in one court and I'm over here in another one and I've got a small docket, let me help you out. Let me bring some people down there and help things out. Let's spread the stuff. We can all hear the same cases. We can all do it. It's nothing to move from one courtroom to the next. Let's try and help each other out that way. I think that's the first thing you can do right off the bat to see a change.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Commissioner Hill?
Thank you. And thank you, all 3 of you. It's very clear that you're all very qualified, and I think any 3 of you would do an excellent job. So I appreciate you. I just wanted to make one side comment. You've all stated you're not politicians. I will tell you, none of us were until we were. So just putting that out there, that nobody, I think, is born and says, I want to be a politician, but it's just part of the process if you decide to have a judgeship, clearly in Knox County. My question is for all 3 of you. Ms. Klein, I heard you touch on this, but I'm asking all 3 of you again. If I were to wade through the 5,873 pages listed in the Tennessee Board of Professional Responsibility of the Supreme Court of Tennessee, would I find your name where you have addressed any complaints, filed disciplinary action against yourselves, or had any licensure compromise?
I've never answered a board complaint in my 30 years of practice.
Thank you.
I have had a complaint, which is very normal for an attorney, particularly if you do trial work. The complaint was totally founded on political reasons, and there was no action taken.
I am not aware of any complaint that has ever been made against me with the board.
Thank you. And I will say, having served on a state licensure board, I do understand anybody can file a complaint. So I will caveat that by saying that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Jay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for applying and being willing to serve and step up. Question for all of you in whatever particular order. How do you keep your personal bias out of your duty as a judge and rule on a case, whether it be religious convictions, political positions, perceptions, stereotypes, held ideologies? How do you separate that as a judge?
I'll answer that one first. I would love to dive into that. You do that as an attorney every day, particularly doing criminal defense and people that are alleged to do something that breaks the law. Obviously, none of us think that you should break the law. But when somebody comes in and they're criminally accused, you have to take that person and you cannot judge them what they're charged with. And you cannot say, I don't agree with this or I don't like that person. You have to put on your lawyer hat, and your job is, as a lawyer, you're not looking at them based upon their race, religion, what they did, or the charges they're looking at. You have to totally separate yourself and do your job. I know when I started doing defense, some of my friends, some of my family said, you're going to represent those bad people? And that is not how we look at them. These are people. All people, whether they're criminally accused of a crime, deserve to be treated with respect. And whether we find out the facts are really bad, maybe they did do it, we still have to treat them with respect. So as a lawyer, you're not looking at condoning any bad behavior or judging them whether they're guilty or thinking you're going to not defend them because you don't like what they did. I've done every crime that I can think of. Murder, child sex abuse, rape, drugs. Do I approve of that? No. But I made sure that that person was represented and that I'm there as to guard their constitutional rights. So I would say for all of us, nobody comes in with a bias of whether or not you like that person or what they behave or where they live. It is all to protect their constitutional rights. And I think particularly as a criminal defense attorney, you have to do that or you couldn't do this work.
The best way to combat that is to know the law and follow the law. It's sort of interesting. Every day I deal with pro se people, which means they don't have their own attorney to represent themselves. I deal with people that have a public defender. They are not able to afford an attorney, so they have one appointed. And I have people that have hired their own attorney, a retained client. And very often, every time I do it, I make the same offer no matter who your attorney is. And the high-priced attorney will say, but Kevin, this guy paid me a lot of money. And I treat everybody the same. Doesn't matter to me.
As I had stated earlier, personal opinions and bias have no place on the bench. A judge has to listen to the facts. Both sides present their case. They make decisions about credibility, and they apply those facts to the case, and then they apply the law. Opinions and bias have no place in a judicial seat. We are all human beings. We all have bias. We have biases we're not aware of. But I think as a judge, it is key that every day when you take that seat, you put yourself in that robe and you take the position of a person who is going to hear the facts and apply the law. And knowing the law is very important in that position. The law it's very clear what it is. Of course, there's case law out there that you have to be abreast of, but opinions and bias have no place on the bench.
Okay. So, second question for all of you. What is the most important outcome in a criminal case? Punishment or rehabilitation?
Can I go first? I'll go first this time. Justice, and that the correct result is achieved. For General Klein and I, that could be dismissing a case against our client, which happens to be the state of Tennessee. And it's not to get convictions. Never in my life have I just went out to get convictions. How many convictions can I get today? We take an oath to do the job fair and just.
I think that is a two-part question. I think that our criminal justice system is for punishment, but it is for rehabilitation as well. So if somebody does commit a crime, there is punishment, but also we need to rehabilitate those that we can, whether that be through mental health, whether that be through drug addiction and getting them treatment. But those people, a lot of time, are going to come out of jail. And so I think the justice system has a responsibility to help those who do have to be incarcerated so that when they come out, that they don't go back to jail. So we need programs to help those so to keep that recidivism rate down. So it's a two-part question. Yes, punishment, but rehabilitation. And I don't think either one is more important than the other. I think it's a dual answer.
On the civil side of the bar, we are dealing with cases where we have individuals who are arguing with individuals, and the punishment, they're fighting over money. In the criminal system, you've got the state of Tennessee versus an individual. For every crime, there is a punishment. So there is always going to be a punishment. The question is, does that punishment, when a judge is implementing that punishment, should it include rehabilitation? We have mental health courts in Knox County. We have veterans courts in Knox County. We have recovery courts in Knox County. All of those courts exist because there is a need for rehabilitation in Knox County. In every punishment, there should be a consideration for whatever is going to be the most effective way of reducing recidivism. You don't ever want to see this person come back into the courtroom again. That was my goal as a prosecutor, and that would be my goal as a judge. You have to weigh the balancing between the punishment that's required. For example, an A misdemeanor carries a punishment of 11 months and 29 days. That can be on probation. That can be incarceration. That can be a combination thereof. That person, if they are in need of rehabilitation and can benefit from it, then absolutely they should have that opportunity to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you all stated before, obviously, reaching the level of judge is kind of the pinnacle of your career as in law. And so thank you all very much for putting your name out there, putting yourselves out there, because clearly, as I stated multiple times before, you all are very more than qualified, and the people would be served very well by each of you. And obviously, this is your opportunity to shine. This has been a very fast process. My question for you all is, in your time practicing law, what is your, I guess, proudest moment or accomplishment? And how do you feel like that's shaped you as a person? And why was that such a big deal for you, or a big moment?
As a criminal defense attorney, I remember a gentleman that was an elderly gentleman that was accused of a crime. It was a drug case. I was appointed to represent him. I conducted a preliminary hearing with, and back in that day, I was a much younger attorney, a baby attorney, and conducted a preliminary hearing with a seasoned prosecutor, and that case was dismissed. I was very proud of that. That individual was not guilty, and his case was dismissed. As a prosecutor, my proudest achievement has been my work with elder abuse in the state of Tennessee. When I was appointed by my boss, District Attorney Sharm Allen, to start the first elder abuse unit, that didn't exist anywhere in Tennessee. We created it here in Knoxville. Legislation I enacted, or I didn't enact, I helped to enact, I wrote with a committee new laws in the state of Tennessee on elder abuse that didn't exist. There is an entirely new section of the criminal code that wasn't there 10 years ago because of the efforts that we put in to rewrite those laws. I'm very proud of that. There are meetings like I was discussing, stakeholders coming together. That's required in elder abuse now, the vulnerable adult prosecution and investigation team, where stakeholders come together regularly to discuss elder abuse referrals. That's state mandated now because of new legislation that I had a hand in writing. I'm very proud of my work with elder abuse. I'm also proud that whenever I, as a prosecutor, try to approach a case, I try to do it with fairness and ultimately try to tailor the outcome when making offers or handling cases that are most appropriate for the individual facts and the individual person that's in front of me.
As doing defense work, you know, you're always proud when somebody who is falsely accused by the government, you win at trial. But that's not my proudest moment. My proudest moment is a client that I went to trial with, and it was a minor, nothing too serious. And, you know, going in, the evidence was really stacked against her, and I couldn't figure out why she wanted to go to trial. And I said, well, that is up to the defendant to decide whether or not they want to go to trial. And she said, nope, I want a trial. And we went to trial, and we lost. And afterwards, she was crying, and I thought she was crying by the verdict. And I was like, why are you crying? And she hugged me, and she said, because nobody's ever fought for me. That was one of my proudest moments, even though we lost the trial. She, as a woman, 30, in her mid-30s, who had a drug problem, but she'd been a product of the system and been abused and discarded. But she was happy. She wasn't crying tears that she was convicted. She was crying tears that somebody stood by her side and fought for her. I've also, one of the things I'm proud of is that I spoke to in Congress in Indiana. At that time, they did not have any statute of limit. Well, their statute of limitations was very low, like 10 years on rape or child abuse. So I spoke before them and changed the law that they extended their statute of limitations to 25 years because a lot of times children and young people don't come forward in cases of rape or child sex abuse. So I was able to speak to the Congress and the legislators in the state of Indiana and push for that. I had a group contact me and ask me if I would help them, and I did. And so I was proud of that. But, you know, your successes and your proudest moments aren't always on your wins. Sometimes they're thinking about, I got to tell you one more story, and I know my time's limited, but I had somebody who was accused of a major, major crime, young man, who'd been abused in every way. His dad tried to kill him when he was little. And we ended up working his case out, which meant he was going to go to prison for 10 years. But again, he was like, you know, somebody that cared about me. And he didn't have nobody on this earth, no family, nobody that cared about him. But about once a year, I would get a little postcard. And he would say, I'm still doing my Bible study. That somebody in the justice system cared about him enough to say, you know, you're not going to be in prison the rest of your life. And sometime when you can come out, maybe you can do something with your life and make a change. So he is out of prison now. I've been practicing long enough. He has served his time, and he is flourishing in the community. But that is a proud moment.
I think General Klein has probably shortchanged herself. She keeps talking about she's done thousands and thousands of cases. I'm well over 100,000, and I bet she is as well. So it's difficult for me to choose one case. However, I will give you an example of what can happen for me. You know, as General Allen has told many people, these people, the victims and witnesses, come into court on the worst day of their life. They don't want to be there. Something occurred that has them there. So I'm able to give them a resolution, and on multiple occasions, I've had someone say, is it okay if I hug you? Yes. Can I shake your hand and just say thank you for looking out for me. That would be my answer. Those are the moments I remember when I am able to, I can never put somebody back to how they were, but I can, give them a little peace and make them feel a little better.
Thank you. I do want to thank all three of you for applying. I know that it was a quick turnaround, what nobody had expected to happen so quick. And I appreciate you guys kind of pivoting and being able to get everything to us. I've had quite a few of my questions answered, so I'm not going to ask you the same thing, but I am going to ask something a little bit different to each one of you. Can you give me your management style and experience with working with the court staff? And whoever wants to start.
That's an interesting question. Management style. I would say I was the supervisor, team leader for the elder abuse unit. So I did work as the person in charge of that unit. I believe as a person takes a leadership role, that it's important to get information from the individuals that you're working with. I think it's very important to set immediate what your expectations are from them and to give them the opportunity to say what their expectations are for you. I think communication is key, and that the ability to talk to each other about what the various roles each one is expected to play is for me, my management style. I'm very direct most of the time. This is what I expect. What do you expect of me in return?
I have worked for the clerk's office, so I have managed cases on that end and seen the flood of cases that come in. My management style is the first thing, particularly in sessions court, is I go get my warrants, which is the first thing we do when we come into court. We go get our warrants. They're up at the bench, so we get those, and then I go talk to the DA. And I'm direct. I mean, it's best, if you can't, that's kind of where you start, is talking to the prosecutor. So I go to the prosecutor, discuss with them, and then my client that I've already talked to, and then we explain to my client what's going on, whether this case today the case is going to be dismissed, it's going to be reset, or whether we're having a hearing. And so I agree, communication is vital. And a lot of times before court, before we even get there, there's communication back and forth with the clerk's office, whether you're sitting cases, resetting cases, and the district attorney. So I think the best method is just to be direct and handle it yourself and not push it off to somebody else. That's worked very good for me, that I know when my cases are, and I talk to the DA and talk to my client. And I think that's most efficient, is if you're doing it yourself and you're not passing it off to somebody else.
Other than General Allen and the deputies, I think I probably supervise more people than anyone in the DA's office that's an attorney. And my management style is very, I don't know that I want to say hands off, but it's, here's your guardrails, there's your job, do your job. As long as you get your job done in the time that it needs to be done, I'm okay with that. I am not a micromanager, but we all know what we're supposed to do. We all know what we're expected to do, so get it done.
Thank you. Thank you again for each of you. I think Knox County will be lucky, whoever the appointee is. Just so everybody kind of understands, we will be adjourning this meeting, and we will be going into the public hearing meeting, and that's when the floor will open for nominations. So do I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Second. All right, adjourned. You ready? Good afternoon. I call to order the public hearing for Monday, December 8th, 2025 for the appointment of General Sessions Judge Division 4. I apologize. I, at this point, will ask the clerk to call roll.
Commissioner Rawls. Commissioner Durrett.
Present.
Commissioner Oster.
Here.
Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Russell. Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Lee. Commissioner Thompson.
Here.
Commissioner Fox.
Here.
Commissioner Jay.
Here.
Commissioner Frazier.
Present.
Thank you. And I will now open up the floor for nominations. Commissioner Hill.
I'd like to nominate Andrea Klein.
Okay. Commissioner Fox.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Rhonda Lee.
Commissioner Jay.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Teeters.
All right. So we have all three applicants. We will now begin in District 1, and you will name your choice.
Commissioner Rawls.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You guys have made this difficult. Just to be quite honest, this is you're all qualified. You're all overqualified. You all will bring a lot to the bench. But as far as my vote, I think based on Judge Jackson's recommendation and your history, I'm going to go with Ms. Klein on this.
Commissioner Durrett.
Thank you. I agree with my colleague. This is a difficult decision. You all are very well qualified, but I too will go with Ms. Klein.
Commissioner Oster.
Thank you. Again, I reiterate what my two colleagues have said, and again, I appreciate all three of you, but I do vote for Andrea Klein.
Commissioner Jackson.
Klein.
Commissioner Russell. Commissioner Hill.
Klein.
Commissioner Lee has recused herself. Commissioner Thompson.
I'll certainly echo Commissioner Rawls' sentiment that this is difficult. And I appreciate the, I guess the West Knox group that invited you all out and where you all were able to introduce yourselves there as well and watch that and learning so much about you all and three different personalities, management styles. I mean, you all are, but the experience is deep. And I certainly appreciate each of you and receive phone calls and text messages and emails for each of you. I guess my vote would be for Ms. Klein.
Commissioner Fox.
Again, I think all three are qualified, but my vote is for Rhonda Lee.
Commissioner Jay.
Klein.
Commissioner Frazier.
Thank you. To echo what you've all heard here today, the former HR director came out in me, and just so everyone knows, I've scored you on 7 categories based on your resume, your references, your delivery and presentation today. And I have to tell you, it was really close. It was really close. But one did edge out, and my vote is for Klein.
All right, so the end vote is 8, Andrea Klein, and 2 for Rhonda Lee. Ms. Klein, congratulations, you are the new appointee. And will you read that into the record, please?
This is a resolution appointing Andrea Klein as judge for the Knox County General Sessions Court Division 4 to serve until a successor is elected and sworn.
Motion to approve.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Meeting adjourned.